Welcome to Co-op Mode, round 98. This is the official video game podcast of Secret Friends Unite. I am Todd Oxtra, joined by Mark the Canardian Carabin. My goodness, friend, we have been dealing with adult issues, and we don't want to talk about that tonight. But I'm glad you're safe, glad you got power, and I'm glad you're back in the world of connected. I guess the best way to put it.
Me too. Yeah, I do. I mean, you said we don't want to talk about it too much, but I do want to just say, I heard from people just sending me messages and stuff and just checking in. Hurricane Fiona hit Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada really, really hard. And, I was telling you about a little bit of damage to my house and dealing, just starting to deal with insurance because I kind of wanted to save the insurance lines for people like my brother's friend who lost her apartment completely. So it could have been worse, could still be, better. And I'm glad you're feeling okay. You're past the spicy flu. You're able to interact with people.
It does feel weird. I feel like I was out of the trap of COVID and it got me. And I'm so far, and I knock on wood, my family's good. 10 days of isolation, essentially. That was not fun, but by far people have had it worse than me. So folks, getting protected will make it far better if you end up getting it. So just be safe out there.
Yep, absolutely. So again, yeah, thank you to anyone that checked in, and for our listeners and stuff that I know, like Famous Seamus. There's a couple of other people in the community that are from Atlanta, Canada, and close by. And so far, anyone I've talked to has been pretty safe, has been pretty good. So we're pretty lucky. But it took me a week to get power back in my house, so I'm happy to be sitting in my kitchen as usual with lights on. That's new. Exciting.
Modern luxuries we can enjoy. Power.
I'll tell you. Yeah, fantastic. There's still people that I know that are really close to where I live that still do not have power. It's and some of the estimations are even Thursday, so we're close to 2 weeks that people have been going without power or hot water. It's rough.
Wow. Well, hopefully we can make the world a better place by talking about video games. And Mark, one of those things that, makes people sad or happy or maybe a little bit nostalgic is thinking about systems that are gone too soon. This is, of course, inspired by the news of Stadia going out to pasture. Maybe it's like Old Yellow. You gotta take the dog out in the field, shoot her, put her out of misery. Don't know. Some people loved it. Some people could care less. But we're here to treasure those systems that were gone too soon from our lives. So this week for Buy Rent Return, we've got Dreamcast, the Wii U, and PS Vita. My goodness, Mark. So a little bit about Dreamcast. Came out in 1999. Apparently sold almost 10 million consoles, which that system was only around for 2 years. So if it did 10 million in almost 2 years, that's not bad. But when you're going up against PlayStation 1 that sold 100 million, and then eventually PlayStation 2 that sold 150 million, that is a tough benchmark to go against. Then we have the Wii U, Mark. I believe that came out in 2012, right before the I guess we call them the next gen twins. Sold, believe, finally hit about 13.5 million. The Wii U lasted about 4 years, I believe, was its official reign before the Switch came and changed the day. Then PS Vita, a system that was going to kill the 3DS. It was priced appropriately, strong hardware, but a bad decision on memory, easily hacked, did not get the sales, and did not have Monster Hunter behind it. And when you have a handheld in Japan, guess what? You better have Monster Hunter because that is huge in Japan. So the Vita landed right about 13 to 14 million as well. So the Wii U and the Vita were kind of brothers in arms for not really doing great. The PS Vita, I think, is finally going out to pasture. Now they no longer make it, but I believe that shop is still around. So there you go. Those are the systems that we're going to talk about today. So Mark, Buy Rent Return.
First off, I'm going to read Winter Gamers. Brendan Myers wrote in and said he's going to buy Wii U. It was a really good system. He's going to rent PS Vita only because it had great games, but was missing something from not having R3 and L3, making it feel less appealing. Which I can definitely, yeah, it was hard to do modern games or even remote play because of that. Which again, kind of like the memory thing, just a
The
weird
back touch
glaring
mark, that's
mistake.
your L2, L3, L2, R2. No,
I think I'm not
no.
watching the video version. I'm trying to stare a hole through
I said
Todd's
I'd make
thing.
you hate me again.
I know, yeah, and return Dreamcast because I have zero memory of it. So this is Brendan Myers. Thank you for writing in, and I'm going to mirror that sentiment
Hmm.
exactly, which is why I read Brendan's first because I didn't want to steal his thunder. But for me, the Wii U is still a system that I have very fond memories of. It was one of the first things I actually bought. We were moving into this house. I bought it right around the same time. It came out early November. We moved into this house right around the same time. I think I hooked that up before we even had internet hooked up in this house. So it was just playing new Super Mario Brothers U, and just still trying to like move in and paint things and whatever. The Wii U had a fantastic library, but the system itself was a solution looking for a problem. The gamepad did nothing really that was too
It failed
marvelous.
the bathroom test, Mark. You couldn't
Yeah,
take it to the
that's
bathroom.
it.
It wouldn't even go that far.
You couldn't even look at the thing sideways without losing a connection. You had to have direct line of sight basically. And it was, yeah, it was clunky and chunky and Fisher pricey and just everything that the Switch fixed. But I don't know if it was a necessary half step to get to the Switch or not. But the games, as you will see by games still being re-released and repackaged, and people still clamoring. What was the last direct came and went, and we didn't hear of the re-releases for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. People want a file save as Switch port of these games, and I you know that just tells you how great this system was. We're still playing the same Mario Kart game. The you know this was a good good system as far as the games went. Just never really caught a foothold because of how expensive and weird and clunky it was, basically. So good system. I'll mirror Winter Gamer on that one. That was a good library, at least bad system.
Do you still have
Um,
yours?
I do. It's still hooked up upstairs.
Perfect first
I haven't,
system for Finn, to be honest.
yeah, and I haven't played it in a
It's
while.
bulletproof. You throw that thing down the
It
toilet.
is plugged
It
in. Yeah.
lasts.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be hooking that up once he's kind of curious about that kind of stuff. And I'll get to something he was playing earlier, later, a little later. But I did rent a PS Vita. I bought it.
How do you even do
Had it.
that?
I had it for a while. I sold it.
Oh, that's how you do it.
Consider
Okay,
that
like
renting. You know, I had it for a
Blockbuster, can
while
I
and then
rent this
sold it.
handheld? Sure. We normally don't do this type of thing, sir.
Uh,
here's
but
a kiosk with a PS Vita. Take that home.
I did own a PS Vita for a while. I thought it was good at some remote play. I played a ton of Rocket League on my PS Vita because you didn't need those extra buttons for Rocket League. As soon as you start to play something like an Assassin's Creed or Destiny or something that needed those extra buttons, it was like,
Yeah,
not for
totally
me.
agree.
It was a great indie machine until the Switch came over and took that over and kind of, again, fixed those mistakes from the Vita, just like it fixed the mistakes from Wii U. And I found I didn't really need it anymore. And people were still really clamoring because you said it was jailbroken very quickly. Not something that I really did with the system. I could have, but I had some other avenues that I, could have done that stuff with or played those games that people were jailbreaking for. So I sold it for pretty much the same amount that I bought it. I got
Yeah,
it on a great sale, and so I had it for a while. Basically, just rented the thing, and that was it. Uh, and then Dreamcast is a system that my only experience is actually renting it. My friend Jeff rented
really.
a Dreamcast. I still remember going over his place, playing it in his basement. Actually rented that one from Blockbuster back when you could rent consoles from Blockbuster,
Jeez.
and that's my only memory of it. And again, it was Dreamcast felt like a half step because even back then, early internet, you're getting rumblings in magazines or whatever else. You're getting rumblings of what's coming next. Nintendo has something coming up. Sony has something coming up. These next consoles are coming out. This thing just came out too early. It was right in between a console generation, essentially. So it was like jack of all trades, master of none. Like it wasn't quite that full step that people wanted. And it was like, if you can be patient for another year or two, you're going to get a more powerful console from these other people. Like Microsoft, there was rumblings. They were doing something, of course, that worked out the way it did. But that was kind of my memory of Dreamcast. It was like, they're doing some cool stuff, but like there's cooler stuff coming. So that's my buy rent return. What about you?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I have a little. I owned all three, and I think I finally I got rid of my Dreamcast a couple of years ago. I'm not a person that I like have to crave to have old systems. I usually squeeze the life out of them, like return to nature. Someone will love you eventually. So yeah,
Dust.
I'm gonna say buy the Dreamcast because that game, that system. When I remember when my friend, when I was at Air Force Supply School in San Antonio, Texas. I had 3 months to do nothing except go to supply school. Had a great time with a bunch of other young officers. We were having a great time. I brought my PlayStation with me. My friend got a Dreamcast, and when I saw Soul Calibur, it blew my socks off. It blew what the PlayStation was doing away. Oh my goodness! It made the Dreamcast or the N64 looked silly because it was no longer blood. It was funny because that was the area of like 3D gaming where it went away from like the really ugly pixels to the PS2 era, which the GameCube, the games started looking better in 3D, and that was the first one that came out of the gates. And the games on there were just amazing. I just loved them. Soul Calibur, you had Resident Evil, they didn't have the EA games, sports games, so they made their own franchises. The 2K Sports started with the Dreamcast, and NFL 2K was, to me, 10 times better than Madden. Loved it. Just really good ports of arcade classics, originals like Power Stone, great Sonic Adventure. It was really fun. It had so many cool, and it had some unique innovations like the VMU port with the screen where you could play as like a little game. You'd put it in there and you could see your plays in football. And it had a rumble pack you'd put, so it looked like a beast because you'd put that and then it had a rumble pack you'd put in it. It had the control cable was at the bottom, so that was weird and odd. It was just did so many things weirdly. It only had one analog stick, so we didn't learn from that apparently for some reason. The whole system itself looked kind of childish, kind of Fisher Price as well. But I just really enjoyed the system quite a bit, and I took it with me to Korea. And it was my friend. So I had a great time with it. Also found that you could actually pirate games on it when I was in Korea. And there was a pirate shop downtown Korea. So that's popular, right? If it can be port. So that was a good time. Found some really crazy games I could play on it. Really love the Dreamcast. And, it brought internet gaming really to a console for the first time, which is very cool. I don't think I ever did that, but Phantasy Star Online was the game that was kind of for it. So a lot of fond memories, a lot of bad missteps. Actually has Windows CE in it, so actually was the first Microsoft's first iteration of gaming in hardware. So there you go. Yeah, right. Sega, and then Peter Moore worked for Dreamcast, then he went to work for Xbox. So kind of crazy. It was, really crazy. But to your point, yes, at a bad point because basically Sony could just, hey, you don't want this, you want this, and just hold off. But really, really love that system. Then the system that I would rent would be the Wii U. The only reason I would rent it is because the library, where I played almost all the games I needed to on the system, but there were so many droughts and there was just a lot of gaps in the software that it always felt like it was never you could only have that system. It felt like it was always like, and it was it didn't always have the games you wanted on it. It was like, oh, here's Mario 3D World. Well, it kind of felt like 3D Land, and even though it's a good game, it just felt like it never had its shining moment. It didn't get a Zelda game, really like a pure Zelda game, until the end of the life of, like, almost at the end of its life. So it kind of felt like it didn't have a Metroid. It lacked a lot of system. Had the first HD iteration though of a lot of games, which was great for Nintendo. And they tried some things, Zombie U, and Nintendo Land, and
Deal.
that asynchronous gameplay that kind of worked but was hard to pull off. But
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time with the system, but yeah, it definitely had its gaps. So I think it was a fine system. My last game I played on that was Shantae. It
Oh,
was the
cool.
yeah, and I love that game, so it was really good. Yeah, so very, very cool system. Then the Vita, that's a return. I am not a handheld gamer whatsoever. I've owned a bunch of them, and I play them for a little bit. I'm like, I don't like the controls. Screen's too small. This is not how I like the game. But I beat Shovel Knight on that system, so it was perfect for Shovel Knight. And to your point, Mark, that
Such a great indie
system
system.
had its faults, but handheld gaming for a long time was like, well, we didn't include these. Kind of like the 3DS had one analog pad and didn't have the other one. Then it added the little nub and stuff like that. And it's like, well, the Vita was missing L2 and R2. And that was a huge gap to really bring the games in. And it also, I think it was the point where everybody woke up to say, it's hard to balance two unique systems and develop software for them because they have unique hardware requirements. And Sony couldn't. They couldn't just put their mainline PS3 games on the Vita. It just wasn't powerful enough. It was just they were going to have to compromise too much. So essentially, Nintendo learned from that Wii U 3DS era and said, you know what? Everything's we're just making for one thing. We're going to manage the hardware power, so we don't have to worry about splitting our resources. We can just have everything go to one handheld. So I think that's where Sony is, because people say, "Oh, bring back Sony." I'm like, Sony's never going to bring out something on the PS5 that could work on their handheld. If they did that, it just wouldn't work. You'd be at like 720 15 frames per second, maybe. So yeah, that's my choices. So
Respectable.
they're all
All right.
their good things. So yeah,
Yeah. So many almost hits with all three of these. Like
absolutely.
slight variations, and I think it could have gone different ways.
Absolutely. Like never dropping the price of the Wii U, being Nintendo's most expensive system ever until the OLED came out, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks everyone. Brandon, thank you for your comment. Now we're going to move into what we've been playing, because we're going to save the news to go into our special topic. So Mark, I don't know how you gamed without any power, but I assume if it's handheld, it means you can charge a little bit and play a little bit.
Yeah. So my parents ended up getting power back a few days before I did. So of course, the night before all the hurricane stuff, I charged up as many devices as I could, and even had like my 3DS charged up, portable battery packs, I had a bunch of them all lined up. My brother did the same. So yeah, so we were kind of ready to go. But one nice thing, my parents did have a generator as well, so we were able to charge devices there, and it was fine. Spent a lot of time with my parents. Very grateful for those people, and very grateful that they live close by, that we could just kind of pop over and charge devices, and take advantage of their generator. So I did play a bit of Switch, but the first game I want to talk about is on Xbox, and I grabbed that the second we had power back. I set the Game Pass app to download this thing, because I couldn't wait to show Finn Paw Patrol Grand Prix, and this is on Game Pass. Again, it's one of those games by Outright Games, who just keep knocking these games out of the park, man. It is so much fun to introduce Finn to gaming with IP that he loves. And he's not a huge Peppa Pig fan, but he watched me play that a little bit because I wanted to try something just different. But this one, Paw Patrol Grand Prix, he got so excited. The voice actors are there. He started like screaming as soon as he saw his favorite characters. so I did things as Rocky, Rebel, Sky. They were like the characters he's screaming at me to play. It was awesome. Um, and the thing I want to hit on the most on this one, because it is a solid racing game. It's fun. It's good for kids and whatever, but it has an assisted driving mode that's basically like you can just plop a controller down in front of your kid and it's just going to go. It's just going to finish the race. They really don't even have to do anything. And Finn was pressing, he was holding it A to go, and occasionally he'd touch the control stick, but it kept him in the center and he was holding in the buttons. And every once in a while I'd lean over and press X to shoot something or whatever. But for the most part, like he just kind of had the Xbox controller. There's a photo on Twitter that I think I shared and possibly Instagram. But it's just him, and he's got the biggest smile on his face. He was so happy. He won his first race, came in first, and it was just like as soon as he hit that finish line, I threw my hands up. I was celebrating. He got all excited. And he loved it, man. And then, he watched me play, and again, he was telling me who to pick, and loved hearing Mayor Humdinger be the like kind of overarching villain and throw things on the racetracks and stuff. Like he just had so much fun with this that I couldn't even stop playing it. Like he wanted, it was his nap time, and I was like, oh, do I have to stop playing? Like, look how happy he is. So it was awesome to one, get power back, and two, that's the first thing I did when I fired up the Xbox was like, hey buddy, you have been like deprived of entertainment. And he was so good through the week, but like that was like, we're hitting this hard. You are getting back into like power and technology and everything else. And here's a Paw Patrol game, bud. Like that was the greatest thing. So Outright Games, like, man, thank you. You guys are just like Finn's first gaming memories. Although I do have to also hold on. I think I can grab this without leaving my seat. So Finn spotted this. This is probably 30 years old at this point. He has been super obsessed with pinball.
Very cool.
This is
I
like
think I remember that one. I think I remember that specific one.
So that was my old pinball set when
Does
I
it
was.
still power on?
I don't know.
Oh,
I've been
okay.
trying to find batteries, but of course, everywhere's sold out of every
Mhm.
size
Yeah.
battery because power apocalypse. And the thing takes like 4C batteries, so I have a
God, there's no
million
adapter. You
double
probably
A's and
need
a
like
million triple A's.
probably see if does somebody make an adapter so you no longer have to buy those ridiculous batteries?
I wish. I have every other type of batteries. I have D, double A's, triple A's. I even have like watch batteries in the house. Um, like I have everything but freaking C batteries, and I need 4 of the suckers, and I can't find them anywhere.
I could have loaned you some because I needed those little batteries for my thermometer because I couldn't find those. I'm like, crap, I'm gonna run out of those.
So these are the big giant round suckers. Is I need 4 of them for this. So that's it. But I cleaned it all. The plexiglass is a little broken, but he's been so fascinated by it, and he's figured out pulling the trigger back and launching the thing, and then he just slaps the sides of it, and it makes the paddles go, and it's highly entertaining, and I can't wait to like keep going with both real games and video games, and he seems to be interested in it all. And this thing doesn't even light up yet.
Oh
Like
wow, that's gonna blow his
just wait
mind.
till it lights up. It's literally just the mechanics of it that he's interested in, and keeps going back. He went back for it today. Like I kind of hit it because I don't want him to break it more when he gets bored of it and throws things. But I hit it, and he like searched it out and found it today, and was just like, yeah, this. And I put it on the coffee table, and it's a perfect height for him. So great between Paw Patrol and that my gaming with Finn at not even 2.5 years, he's ready to go. Yeah,
They
it's great.
just launched DC League of Super Pets too on Game Pass. So
He had like very little interest in that one.
oh
Sadly, I
really?
tried,
Oh,
tried. He yeah, I don't know what it was with that one. He just he flitted off with his attention. I thought it was cool. The first mission, at least, I played through the first one and was like trying to be like, "Hey, look, it's a dog like flying through the air," and he was just like, okay."
Yeah,
I
it's
get
not
it.
an
He didn't
IP
seem a
that he's
little
probably familiar.
appreciate, yeah,
It's like doesn't have that
affiliation.
connection
Yeah,
with
so
it. Yeah, the
he's like,
movie's
"There's a dog,
on
but it's not
HBO
Sky.
Max now.
It's gonna." Oh, maybe I'll have to check.
Yeah.
All the HBO, some of the HBO stuff goes to Crave here. I'll have to check it out. I'll see. Um, so that was one I thought he was gonna like, but he didn't really grab onto. Um, so some of the other stuff I will talk. We played one game similar, so I'm gonna get rid of the other ones, and then we'll talk about that similar game. My brother, of course, while the power's off, he starts showing me on his Switch Monster Hunter Rise, and I was able. So we hooked the router up to the generator
Oh, jeez.
and got internet back because that was a priority, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I downloaded the demo for Monster Hunter Rise, and he's showing me all these things, and I played a few different weapon classes, and then I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm just buying it. It was on sale, so I got Monster Hunter Rise with the Sunbreak DLC and the whole like deluxe edition or whatever. So all the DLC that's possible there. Um, I'm liking it. It's my first. I did play the Monster Hunter game on Wii a little
Mm,
bit,
yeah,
but
try.
like, yeah, yeah, that's the one. Um, I was gonna make like a yes, I tried it. That's the one I tried.
Ah, very good, my
But I'm
friend.
not. Yeah, those. Um, anyway, I'm liking this one. I've played around with a couple of different weapon classes. I've done a couple of different missions. It was really cool to do some missions with him, local multiplayer and that kind of stuff. So it's neat. So if you're a Monster Hunter player and you want to like kind of show me the ropes, let me know. And then the other one, because Monster Hunter and Splatoon aren't taking enough of my time away. I decided to get back into Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and try to complete the Sinnoh decks because I beat that game a couple of weeks ago, and I think I talked about it here. Getting back into it, I'm back into it
Oh
again.
wow.
It's just I don't know, man. This game, like, I should be ready for the next Pokemon game and just kind of like cleansing my palate with everything else. But like, I think I was talking to my brother about this, and I think the reason I can get into Brilliant Diamond is because it's the old style of games.
Hmm.
And Scarlet and Violet are going to be the new 3D style. So I don't think I could like go and replay Shield right now and be still hyped for the next game. But this one's doing something for me, and I've been really picking off. So I have like a handful of Pokemon that I have to try to get through trades and stuff. Especially if you own Pearl, let me know. I need some of the exclusives. But yeah, man, I've been like, I found the mythical Pokemon so far. I've got like some legendaries. I was doing transfers from Pokemon Home from other games that I knew I had. Like, oh, I have this one, I have that one. And like grinding to level up a couple of things. Like, I'm hooked and I'm ready for November. So that's it. What have you been playing?
Well, I was trying to play because I'm like sick. I have nothing better to do, so why don't I try playing some games, wrap up some things. So, Splatoon, I think I'm done. I don't love Splatoon, and what was there was just like it feels like more Splatoon. So I think I can hop off that. Logan says he's going to keep playing, so good for him. I never get to play Salmon Run. I just once I said I couldn't get that, I didn't have the level to play it. I'm like, okay, moving on. So my interest kind of waned very quickly with Splatoon again. So it is Splatoon. But
I'm still loving it,
Avengers.
but I didn't mention it, but I'm
Oh
loving
no,
Splatoon.
yeah. I assume you are. It's once again, you've got 2 years of playing Splatoon with updates. So yeah.
It's great.
Um, Avengers. So this game is free everywhere, I think now. And I never finished the Wakanda content, which I really wanted to do because the movie's coming out. So, and new trailer just dropped, folks. See that? It's
So good.
awesome. Namor looks. It was Namor's time to shine, and he looks cool as hell. I know, man with wings on his feet.
I was just
Very
gonna say, I
odd.
can't believe they leaned into the little
Oh,
flitty
love that.
wing feet. Like, so good.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel doesn't always do a great job of sticking. Like they typically put guys in brown suits, but this one they're like, nope, he's gonna look like speedo, wings. Just go
They've
for
been
it.
just leaning more into that. I think,
I love
like,
it.
if you watch even like She-Hulk, like this,
Hmm.
the most recent episode with
Yeah,
the
the goofy
Mantle,
bad
and
guys.
like, just like they're not afraid anymore to like just rip stuff straight out of the comics and just like give you that. But they also they're putting some cool spins on it. Like
Yeah.
Namor has his little foot wings, but like also looks very different and feels very
Oh
different.
yeah.
And I like
Yeah.
that they're changing that up and kind of it's a cool mix of like making it work in the world, but also giving us some like, why does he have wings on his feet? Who cares? He can fly now. Like it, he lives underwater, but he can still fly
Yeah.
because comic books.
He was one
Like,
of Marvel's very
right.
first characters back in the 40s, him and Human Torch the Android. Very
Yep.
weird. Go back, look it up, folks, when it was Timely Comics. But yeah, so I wrapped up the Wakanda content. I had a blast. It's really fun. It makes me remember what I liked about the game, which is the single player content and taking away all of the nonsense about all of the weird, like, oh, you need to get this thing and you need more of this content and you have to do 85 waves to clear this. So I'm like, thank God I didn't have to do that. So I had a good time, had a really fun time. Good boss with Claw, very, very well worth
Really
the
good boss battle.
content. Yeah. So I really enjoyed that. And I'm like, oh, well, let's see. I've got Spider-Man, that content I can play, and then the Mighty Thor content. Everything I said about Wakanda, throw that away and say, here's Spider-Man, 18 steps to, or pieces of content to go through. And it's not real content. It's just go to a war zone and do this. Oh, use this. And I'm like, I don't enjoy those type of things. It's like trophies is the game where it's like, oh, I have to do this 85 to get a trophy. To me, that is non-value added, doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I just feel like in Spider-Man was just, it wasn't truly an expansion. It was just like these missions that were just kind of boring. Get a little bit of, he would talk, didn't have a lot of CG. So I kind of feel like that's the problem with Avengers. I just don't think that end game, that long-term combat is interesting because you're eventually just trying to get costumes. That's the thing. And then fill out your skill tree, but it takes so long to do that I'm no longer having fun enjoying the cool mode or the cool combat I just got. So yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that it's buried there. And Mighty Thor I didn't even get to because I'm assuming it's more the same. And Mighty Thor looked really cool, but I'm like, this isn't enjoyable whatsoever. It's just busy work. And once again, they didn't, with Spider-Man, they didn't add new enemies. They didn't add new bosses or anything like that. So essentially in this game, I think there's still like only 4 bosses. And there's just a lot of robots and
I think Mighty
spiders.
Thor is the same. I don't think they've done any story DLC for anyone since the Black Panther expansion. Like I don't think there's been anything of value. I think it's all, like you said, busy work for the new characters, and it's kind of like reskins ish kind of thing, and it's it's a little.
I almost wish they had like parsed it like, here's the main campaign. You get that, you get all the multiplayer stuff you want, but we're going to develop more campaigns and expansions, and we'll charge you for them. I think that's fair. I think it would have been far better
because they've been great so far. Like
absolutely.
Was it Future Perfect?
Yeah, that was
Hawkeye
great.
one?
Yeah,
Awesome.
Too much Hawkeye. Of course, you got like Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, which was like, you shouldn't have 2 main archers. It just need to mix it up a little bit. Somebody's a little bit different, but yeah, I thought Spider-Man's
from a story aspect, but yeah,
yes.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, but Spider-Man was done really well. I was not expecting Spider-Man to be done very well. I thought he was great. I thought, hey, compared to like the Insomniac, this is still probably one of the better ways I've seen Spider-Man control and play. So it is behind the wall of owning a PlayStation. But if you have PlayStation, you can play it for free now. So PS4 or PS5. So Mark, you could even get into it if you really wanted to, but that's a grind to get there.
Yeah.
Because it's not out with it, but yeah.
Not gonna happen. Xbox is definitely my primary console. That's where I beat all the DLC and got all the skins.
Yeah, and there's no save,
stuff.
there's no cloud saves.
Save.
Exactly. So without that, it's like I don't want to have to start the game over again just to do that.
Yep. Yeah, not happening.
Yeah. Let's see. A game that I really enjoy, and I keep forgetting I enjoy, is called Bloodroots. I've talked about this one before. It's just a really fun arcade style game where you have to basically clear a level of bad guys in whatever inventive ways you want to do. You can roll over them with a wagon wheel. You can hit them with a flamingo. It's a hoot. Absolutely great. And it's so perfect because the levels are small and, you know, you die, you start right away. It's got that, it's very addictive and it's fun. But it's leaving Game Pass. Now, folks, when games
Right.
leave Game Pass, they're gone. But you can buy them with Game Pass. You get a discount of like 25%. So you can buy the game for like $15. So that's that. I might do that. I am at a boss level, and once again, boss is the same way. You start over again. I don't like it because there's phases, and
Mm,
that's the annoying part. Because I'm like, oh, I beat that part, and I have to do it all again. That's not fun. I don't want to have to do that same thing again. I'd rather there was like saves points within the boss, just to make it feel like I'm getting exhausted versus I'm still having a good time. But Bloodroots is awesome. The art style is just goofy and fun. It's a really good game. So check out Bloodroots. I tried Grounded, Mark. It is now officially released.
right. Full
It's
release.
it's no longer early access. I held off to play it. This is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids by Obsidian. Great studio. This is a first person perspective survival crafting game where you're trying to solve the fact of how you got shrunk and how you get
Mhm.
back to real life size. You're essentially crafting things to survive. Uh, you know, you can die at night. Insects are all over the place. They'll kill you. Mites can kill you. It doesn't take much to die. You can die of thirst. You can save or change the level of survival you want to play with. Like, I think you can just turn off like thirst and hunger, which is great because that's my least favorite thing to do. Or a game like I'm gonna starve or dehydrate. So, but I will say this: if you don't enjoy crafting or survival, you're probably not gonna like this game. I think it's got a lot of charm. They have a story content now, but I don't like crafting at all. I don't like that busy work, and I don't like it from a third person perspective either. I think that's
Mm,
limiting because insects are going to be all around you, and from a first person perspective, because it's not really a combat game, I kept dying, and I would go try to get my backpack, and the spider wouldn't leave, so I couldn't go back and
mm,
get my possessions. So it's cute, but once again, not for me. Not my busy like a checklist of getting my doing my laundry, folding my clothes, getting my groceries. Just not my. I don't want to mix my real life chores with what I have to do in my video game life. So, but it's there. I think this is a perfect game for somebody. Like my son, I think would really enjoy the game. He tried it in um, when it was under early access, and he said, "Dad, it was
mhm.
just way too hard. They did all these things. Just it was kind of pulling him away from the experience versus making him excited about being in it." But I think this is going to be somebody's first like survival game that they're going to really love, just because the aesthetics, the fun. It's goofy. I think it's well worth checking out, but definitely not for Todd.
I
Play.
did play that
Oh,
one in early access, and
hmm
I liked it. I was missing kind of like guidance or some
hmm
sort of story kind of thing, so I might check that out. It's just,
it's got more now.
yeah, it's I need to get back into that, but again, there's so much that I've been playing, and also without power for a week, so that cut in on what I could play.
Yeah,
So there we
you
go.
have to choose wisely when it comes to games. I realize that now. It's like, where am I going to put my time? Because if I really love game, that's where I want to put my time. Versus, forcing the fun is always hard.
Hmm.
Which I really love a good demo. So PlayStation with their new PS Plus service has offered like brand new demos on games that are typically third party releases. One of those games is Steel Rising. This one looks like a cyberpunk Victorian era in France, where Marie Antoinette is essentially holed up. It's the Revolutionary War, I believe, in France, and apparently someone created automatons to protect the royalty. So you have one, and this is essentially a Souls like, where you are that automaton woman. You're off to go on a mission. And this is definitely, they took a page out of all the Souls like games. I mean, everything, even some of the sounds exactly like it. Where basically uh, very difficult combat. You've got save points. You can power up and do these things. And the aesthetic and world was kind of cool, but everything else didn't win me overall. I didn't think the combat was really entertaining. I didn't like the once again, the Souls-like genre is just not my thing. So there wasn't anything there to really say this feels like it stands out from a design perspective, combat
Mm-hmm.
perspective. But I have heard that people that like this genre like it a lot. Just because it's not grim and gritty and ugly, it's kind of more of an attractive aesthetic, and it's like I said, it's that cyberpunk or not cyberpunk, steampunk look. So gears and all those fun things. So I think there's something there for someone, just not for me. But I'm so glad I got to try it, just because this might have been the one, but I didn't waste anything, and it was like an
Mm,
hour and a half demo to try, and it's basically play as long as you want. So Steel
cool.
Rising. So there you go. It's probably a game that'll be on sale for like $30 in 3 weeks because there's just no buzz for it. So uh
Yeah, that's the first I
yeah.
heard of it.
Yeah. And then lastly, the game that has been challenging to even play, and that's Cyberpunk 2077 because of my PC woes. I bought the game on PS4 which has the PS5 upgrade. I believe it's the same with the Xbox. You get the Xbox Series X upgrade for free.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely patched, completely up to date. Now there is a next gen version of it, and this game runs phenomenally. It's beautiful. I said it probably looks as good as it did in my PC when I got it to run for a short period of time. Um, I think the interface is pretty well done because this was a PC first game, so you always worry
Mm-hmm.
about, is the text going to be too small? Is it going to control? And it does do that little bit of, like, if you remember Mark Destiny, where it uses kind of like your analog stick as kind of like a mouse, which is
Pointer.
just, it's like, guys, can't we change that on console? It just seems like that's
Mm-hmm.
just a silly thing to make it more user friendly, where it kind of ticks down versus you have to. It just feels so slow. The sticks, but I think the game, and this game is getting a renaissance. I mean, obviously, it got its was ravaged because it launched PS4 and Xbox, One versions that on the base systems just couldn't handle the game. They didn't have time to optimize it, and it probably never should have been brought out for those systems. I believe it works pretty well on Xbox One X and PlayStation 4 Pro, but it's definitely going to be a tilted experience on that. But I think take away all those technical issues, and people are really finding a lot to love in this game. It's by the people who made Witcher, which I absolutely love. Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. And this game is really interesting because it is not an open world game where it's like you can impact the environment, but it is open in world in regards to you can go along your quest line how you want. You can do the main line, or you can do side quests. You can play the game this way. You can play one of three different ways. I think it's Corpo. There's three like backgrounds you have, basically corporate from the
Yeah.
from the Outlands or
Grew up in the
whatever.
city or grew up
Yeah,
out in the outlands kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, so you can really choose the way you play and how your story goes, and that was what was great about a lot of RPGs. It's just you have your role, you take it in, your skill tree, how you incorporate that into your approach to combat situations. Maybe you invest heavily into conversation so you can actually get out of a fight. Or do something like that. So I think that's where it leans heavily. It's not, like I said, it's not going to be where it's destructible environments. You're doing all this crazy stuff to the world that you live in. Your impact is the paths you take in your story. So I like that a lot. And I am kind of doing the main path right now. I'm playing a corpo. I'm playing a woman V. I did my style, and buyer beware, kids or parents. If you have kids playing this game, there's nudity, especially when you're doing your
Don't
character
let your kids
selection
play this
screen.
game.
No,
There's
it's not for
cursing and
kids.
profanity
Oh
and
my god.
nudity on the first like you said, character selection
Yeah.
screen, but also in the first mission, it's just right there. Yeah, don't let kids play this.
Yeah, it's definitely not for kids. It's mature. There's drugs, there's sex and rock and roll, everything there. But so far I'm really enjoying it. There's these um interactive, like almost detective work elements
Mhm.
called BD, where you're essentially taking a scene from someone's perspective and you're replaying back the scene, and you can zoom in on things, you can look for audio clues, thermal clues, and kind of do investigation that way. It's kind of neat. You can do those type of things. So there's one mission you do that at the very beginning, which is kind of interesting because you're trying to essentially do a break-in mission, which is kind of cool. So I will say the combat might not be for everybody. It's first person. It is heavily weapon centered. There is melee with swords and things like that. And it is kind of the skill tree is overwhelming. I have not even delved into the skill tree and all the different things you can adapt yet. I'm trying to find a good guide for that because I hate the pressure of it because I feel like I'm going to make the wrong decision and I'm going to have a horrible time. So I need something to guide me to make better decisions so I can really enjoy my way, because apparently like engaging in these, and then get these certain weapons, and there's lots of side quests to get better weapons. So I'm pretty happy with this game so far. And this is a game that I've heard if you mainline it could take 40 hours.
Right.
So Mark, you've played this too then?
I have, yeah. I got back into it. So I played a bit of this when it first launched. I played it on the Xbox One X, and it was okay. But I quickly kind of, as I was reading and seeing things happen with it, and I think I tried a little bit on my Series X when I first got it, but I kind of quickly decided to put it away and wait for it to be all ready to go and patched, and then kind of forgot about it. But I held on to my copy. I still have the Steelbook copy. That's what I've been playing.
Me too.
And um, I also had the pleasure and honor of interviewing and kind of moderating a panel with the female V's voice actor, Trami Lee, at CaperCon,
Oh,
a
that's
local
right.
con a couple weeks ago, where I also met Faye
Congratulations
Shea.
again for you, my friend.
Um,
That's awesome.
yeah, thanks. It was really cool, and sadly, I didn't get to ask her too many questions because the audience asked a ridiculous ton of questions, which was awesome, obviously, for the the audience and that kind of stuff. But I had like a whole list of questions that I wish I asked. But one thing I did ask her was with Cyberpunk Edge Runners on Netflix. Big resurgence of people playing the game, like you and I have been, and a ton of people that I've just seen on Twitter and in the community and that kind of whatever, just kind of going back and revisiting this game, how she felt. And she obviously hasn't really been involved too much since she recorded the dialogue, and she talked a little bit about voice acting in games versus in anime and different things like that. But she said, the people that she worked with, the crew there, were super proud of what they were doing with the game, and the launch was the launch. And she said that the team that she has spoken for basically, kind of said they're going to keep their head down and keep pushing at it, and that they were proud of their work and kind of wished that it was received better. And she's happy now to see people kind of going through. So as you're playing with your female V there, that's her voicing it, and it's really cool. So I actually just restarted this game, and I'm playing with the Nomad class. Last time I did Street class. And I'm only a few missions in, but it's cool to see how even picking a different class kind of restructures
Yeah.
some of the start of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Your intro is completely different, but then your first mission, kind of after like the cyberpunk introduction, once you get into the city, your first mission is pretty much the exact same. You run through it the exact same way. But it's neat, man. It's really cool to revisit this. And like you said, the Series X upgrade was kind of free and instant and very easy to do, even from the Xbox One disc. Um, so super happy to be getting into this, and yeah, I want to keep kind of pushing through it. But I think, like you said, I think I'm probably gonna just kind of mainline this and try not to
Yeah.
squirrel off too much, mainly because this is a packed fall. I have a ton of other stuff to play, and my gaming time's limited anyway. I didn't even get into the new season of Fortnite, talking about that or anything like that, but it's good. The the new comic, they just finished the Marvel comic run as well. I have that behind me. That was a cool, very cool run for Marvel and Fortnite. They did some really neat things. Yeah, so that's it. There's a lot of great gaming goodness, but I'm glad people are getting back into Cyberpunk, and yeah, it's a really cool timing.
Yeah, and see Project Red. I mean, they are a good developer. I think this was really corporate mismanagement to launch the game when they did. They could have done a
Yep.
tiered launch with the PS or PC first until we get this thing hammered out, and then we'll release the rest, or we'll make a
Mm-hmm.
determination. So I think they realized that. I mean, we had No Man's Sky, which that game is having a renaissance as well, and I'm glad to see games that have good promise and the people that made it finally getting some recognition, and it can avoid all the nonsense around it. And the Edge Runners content just dropped. The Edge Runners TV show on Netflix is out, and then we are getting more. There's an expansion going to be coming out for this game for free. I believe in the future too, only for next gen. So this game has a lot of promise, and I think this is a game where, to your point, if you mainline it, you're going to be missing a lot of the game, but that's fine. It's fine. Like with Witcher, I did a lot of side quests and things first before I mainlined it. A lot of people never even mainline the game; they just live the world, kind of like Skyrim and things like that. So
Yeah.
I think that's where it's great. And I don't know if this game where you finish it, if it's just like okay, now do other things. Because if it is, then this game could last you quite some time.
On this, before we go on to our main topic, I do want to ask you, because of this kind of resurgence, because of a couple of games that we've seen resurgence, do you think there's still as much weight from the Miyamoto quote, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad? He said that back in, I believe, the N64 days. Um, could have been later, but I think something's telling me that was N64. Either way, do you think that still holds as much weight now? Like, do you think that Cyberpunk, no matter how many people are playing it now, that launch reputation still kind of lingers as a stink over it? Or do you think people can get past that nowadays and that quote does not ring the same?
That's a hard one because if the structure isn't sound, then I would say no. A bad game is a bad game, regardless of who you did. But I think if the structure and the tenets and the things that have grounded it are sound, just like No Man's Sky. I think I think the structure was there. It was just they overpromised and all these things didn't happen. And I think it became they were they overpromised it. Like a lot of great game designers do that. They overpromise and sell you the world, and it doesn't live up to its hype. I think Spore was a game like that too. Didn't really live up to its because I think what they sold versus what it delivered, and they walked away from that game versus Confused. I think it's the fact that games we've seen the fact that if people can focus and still work on a game to improve it and they're passionate and they're given the resources to do so, I think it can be successful, but it's a balance, right? You don't want to assume that, yeah, we'll get this game better in 2 years and people will stick around for it and embrace it versus being burned. I think that's where some games could benefit from like an early access, like a Grounded, maybe,
Yep.
because that game didn't drop with all its features, but I think they wanted to learn from players' experiences and things like that. I mean, think about like a game where like Minecraft, where they've grown, or even a Fortnite. They're a different experience today than they originally launched, but they had good bones, and that's the thing.
Yep.
But I don't know many bad games that become good over time, or that are just don't have a strong vision, or they don't have strong leadership, and you need a company or someone that will allow them to continue to work on it. I mean, CD Projekt Red could have just said, "We're done with Cyberpunk. We're walking away," and said, "We're not going to do any of the content. We're going to work on Witcher 4 because people want that." So I will credit for them for supporting the developers that make the game and do that. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, is there another example you could think of, like this game would have been horrible 3 years after launch, or yeah, this game is this game needs more time and needs more support because it's got something good. I mean, I don't know. There's these are not. I mean, Final Fantasy 14 is another game like that, but that game essentially what they did, Mark, they shut it down and they relaunched it. I mean, that rarely happens either. So, but Duke Nukem Forever came out after being delayed 14 years or whatever, and that was still a pile of crap. So, like I said, the foundation I think is really what does the job.
Yeah, that's it. I was right. He did say this back in the N64 days. Delayed the launch of the N64 by 3 months to afford his team to finish the game of his vision, and then said that quote. So that's back when games couldn't even be patched. Like N64, you couldn't patch a game if you released a broken game on N64. It was just broken forever. Um, so it's yeah, it's interesting to think now. You brought up a couple of really great examples like Fortnite's a great example of that because it wasn't a battle royale game. Like Fortnite Save the World mode is what Fortnite was supposed to be. So like
It was like was it a
like
not
tower
a tower
defense
was it a
type of
tower
thing.
defense?
Well,
Kind of reminds me
horde
of,
mode, tower
yeah, like you
defense
would
kind of
build up your
thing. Like,
fort and then
yeah,
hold off the zombies or whatever, right?
yeah. It was a horde mode with some tower defense and
Yeah,
building mechanics, and they took that and just made. They were like, "Hey, PUBG's popular. Let's toss a battle royale mode into this thing," and now we have Marvel comics and lore and crazy
and Travis
um,
Scott in
stuff.
concerts.
Yeah, yeah, wild. Um, yeah, it's so cool to watch the evolution of games, but um, and I'm gonna have to we might have to revisit that as a topic sometime because I'm trying to think of some games that launched broken and are completely different or launched completely differently. So anyway, I just wanted that
Well, I'll
popped in
ask you
my
a
head and I
question
wanted to.
then, because a
Yeah.
lot of Nintendo games launch sometimes feature bear, right? Like a
Hmm.
game like Mario Strikers. A lot of people feel like that game did not launch, like it didn't feel robust. And
Hmm.
I don't know if a lot of people feel like that game's got a lot coming to it. Like kind of like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, right? It was like 4 years until they brought content. So I don't is Nintendo just in that more mindset of like, but Splatoon was different, right? Splatoon, they added stuff. It kind of launched a little
Hmm.
bit bare, but then they continued to add to it, add Splatfests and things like that. Support it. So Nintendo is like a weird beast where it's like it's either feature complete or sometimes feels a little bare, and it's like sometimes you don't know if it's going to get content. Like what Mario Party, the one where they finally added like online 4 years later.
Right. Yeah, yeah, so weird. Nintendo, that's it. Yeah. I don't know if Nintendo even knows what it's doing half the time with this stuff. They seem to be stuck one foot in the past and one foot forward, and it could be even like team by team, like the Splatoon 3. We know there's content for 2 years. They've said that up front. We are supporting this game for this long. You're guaranteed to get content for that long. So please spend your $60 or whatever you're going to spend on this, and we will support you and thank you. And other games are just like, well, here's a soccer ball, kick it around, and we might support it. We might drop this completely. Either way, we have your money. Like there's got to be some sort of middle ground, and Nintendo seems to be fumbling that completely this generation with mixed messages or no messages at all. It's just it's weird. It's weird, man.
Yeah.
They need stronger guidance, I think, with some of the messaging or some of the, like I said, some of the teams. Like it just seems like it's a team by team problem, that it's like, here's the greatest game ever made that's feature complete, but we'll add some DLC for a little bit just because we still have some story to tell. Or, here's something that should be $30, but it's 60 because we're Nintendo. So screw up. Like they're all over the place.
Yeah, and Xbox seems to be on the opposite page where they seem to be like a game like Sea of Thieves, where it's like launches ho hum, and now it's like growing the fan base and investing into it. They're on season 82 or whatever. So they do a really good job of, because I think that's where they feel like they are going to make their biggest impact on games as service, because they feel like add content, go there. But on the other side, you've got Halo Infinite right now, which people feel like, is that game even going to make it? Because almost 2 years, it's been about a year since it was released, and that game was delayed a year, and it's like the season pass now is almost a year, it seems like,
Mm-hmm.
and compared to like a Fortnite, it's like Xbox just, I don't know what their plan is with Halo, but it just seems like that of any game, you feel like that would be the one that they could move on. Now I'm hearing rumors about that they're going to move to a new engine to potentially bring out a
Yeah.
battle royale
Switch to
mode.
Unreal.
it's
Yep.
just it's just very weird. It just seems like that would be the game you think that would be all, weapons ready to fire with Forge and all these modes, and so even the most robust team you could think with their infrastructure and anything could really nail it. Nobody's got it. I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody has an opportunity to succeed or fail.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's as well as mature as the game industry is, like it's very much still in growing stages in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be exciting because I think we're going to see more and more of these opportunities to succeed despite initial failures, which I think is good because that's somebody's livelihood. It's somebody's years of efforts. And to see it just be dismissed and move around like that one Square Enix game that I think it was launched like 3 months ago, and it's going to wrap up in 2 months. It's like, that's horrible, horrible.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. Oh well. Well, this moves us on to unfortunately some sad news, Mark. That is Stadia has announced that it will be officially closing in January 2023. They did announce that they will be stepping up to the plate in refunding all hardware, which is surprising. Hardware, really? Because I got a edition for free when I ordered Resident Evil Village, but they didn't ask for it back because I got a refund of the game because it didn't run very well. But anybody got like a Founders Edition, all these will get their money back. All game purchases will be refunded. The only thing that won't be refunded is your previous subscription fees for Stadia Pro. But with that, you did get games. You did get to play. You get to play your games at 4K. So I totally get it. You feel like you waste your time. But just like any subscription service, Netflix is not giving you back your purchases. They're not giving you back your time. Xbox, when a game leaves Game Pass, is not giving you a refund because you no longer can play it. So I totally get that. With Stadia, the official I would say that first sign of problems was when they essentially announced they were not going to be developing any games for the system. They had development teams; those were let go. That was about a year ago, and they intended to be more of a delivery service, not only for games from third parties, but also be a backbone for other delivery services as well. Now it's essentially going to go away, and they're going to wrap this into more of YouTube and more of their other cloud-based initiatives that do not include gaming. So, so with that, Mark, what's your take on Stadia?
First off, I want to ask, because I never really paid that much attention. Was Stadia, the hardware, was that available in places like Best Buy and stuff? Because so far
Yes,
they said they're okay. So are they refunding those purchases? Because what I read
only
was
through
they're
the
refunding
Stadia
anything
store.
through Stadia. Okay, there we go. Um,
Yes.
so that sucks if you
And
bought it at Best
quite
Buy.
honestly, the hardware was a Chromecast dongle, so you could still
Right.
use that to stream Netflix and stuff like that. So to me, that was like that. It's not a big
That's
deal.
yeah.
The controller, I don't believe you can use that for anything else. I've got mine in the box if you want to see it. It wasn't a
I
bad
hope they
controller.
unlock that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hope they unlock that and just let it, like, if you want to
like
use
an
this
8-bit DO or
for
something. Yeah,
Steam or something. Yeah, right.
yeah.
Just unlock here. It's a Bluetooth controller. Congratulations. Um, so my take on this is I've said it before on this show and I'll say it again. I think Google Stadia and most dedicated only streaming services are 5 to 10 years too early, maybe more, depending on how quickly internet infrastructure and speeds kind of take off, and 5G adoption and whatever. Um, it's tough right now, only relying on internet and only relying on things. After again coming from a week without power, I'm really happy that the Switch exists and that I could play things with or without the internet. If you know, because with the generator, we have to shut off and rewire things. And like I said, we hooked up the internet because my brother and I are geeks and couldn't go 12 hours without internet. But at the same time, we'd turn that part off and have to put the fridge on so we didn't lose everything. So I was very happy to have gaming options that didn't rely on an internet speed, especially not a quick internet speed. Because even running on LTE, like I couldn't send iMessages for part of it. I couldn't send you. I was trying to update you and Charlie, and just on how I was doing. I'd get a message from you, and it would say sending through Messenger, just because phone, like people like emergency they were, I don't know if they were
Hmm.
throttling data for emergency services or whatever, but we were like, it was 24 to 48 hours of like, things bogged down from just people texting loved ones and just being like, yeah, I'm okay. Or like, hey, my apartment has a tree in it. So it was like that kind of shit. It was just like, okay, cool. I can still play Mario Kart. Like we're okay. But um, solely having streaming there is just one more step that right now I don't think the infrastructure is there and I don't think it's ready. Very cool technology when it works. Awesome. I've used Xbox Game Pass streaming. I've used Remote Play. I love the technology when it works, when it's there. But to put my eggs in that basket of like, this is my primary gaming apparatus, or this is where I'm going to buy these third party games, or this is where I'm going to play. I think it was a little too early, and it sucks that they don't that Google doesn't let these things mature. They don't let these things gestate. They don't um, have the patience. And I said that as well. Like Google drops projects, and I remember saying that when they first launched Stadia, and a couple of times through the years, that it's like I don't trust Google enough, and it sucks that those like that we were right. Um, I did put this out on Twitter before we started, so I do want to read a couple of responses that I got. Donnie Reese, Eat the Hype. Go listen to they cover this on PSVG.
Mhm.
So go listen to them because they cover this in I think more depth and have more experience with it than I have. Certainly, Todd, I know you dabbled a bit, but Donnie said, I'm going to miss Stadia while it missed the chance to break through the gaming status quo with its outdated monetization, lackluster launch, and failed promises. Stadia had become a convenient place to play from my Chromebook or Cast. I was looking forward to playing on Logi. Yeah, we're starting to see streaming focused hardware
Yeah.
coming out just as this is dying. Like it was, we are so on the cusp of this being a thing that it's the timing sucks so much. They could have just held on.
Yeah,
Uh,
Logitech has their cloud gamepad for $350, and
yep.
Razer has their own handheld as well, which
Yeah.
tells you that they must have a feel that there is something there to invest and launch a project solely for that.
Yeah. Mostly Martinez got back with a few things. I'm going to read through these. One, yeah, I will be sad it's gone. The flexibility and ease of jumping on to play anywhere was unmatched in my circumstance. My son loved it, and he was able to get on and play his games without help, which was awesome. That is a big bonus. So many good memories, and the community was amazing. Two, I will lose some. I asked if people were going to lose like saves and progress and all that kind of stuff because Todd, you kind of alluded to this earlier with Avengers. If it's not cross save, there's no account system. Yeah, you're going to lose. You're going to lose progress. So he said I will lose progress on some games. Realistically, there are games I have on Stadia, mostly free with Pro. I will never buy or buy again that I have not completed. That's a bummer. However, I have such a huge backlog of games that I'm not too upset about that. I get it. Yeah. Three, he said, personally, I do not feel burned by Google. I would rather them have given more funding, backing, and resources into making Stadia better. I had an amazing time with Stadia while it lasted. Many great times with my family and friends. I don't regret anything. Also, refunds. So that's good.
Yeah,
And finally, he closed out with, it was a fantastic way to play games, but not my only way. The memories and friendships made in the community will always be there, and I am excited to spend more time on other cloud-based platforms such as Amazon Luna and xCloud. I also saw Mostly Martinez, I think, just ordered yeah, delivered. Oh,
yeah.
awesome. It got delivered today, the Amazon Luna controller. I know Amazon's doing a promotion right now for any Prime members. You can get the controller for like half off or something like that. So they're taking advantage of this. So yeah, that was
I
the
think Luna
quick.
even tweeted at them. Just say
Oh,
congratulations. So it's very cool. Yeah, it's nice when they're
yeah,
engaged with the community, that because they know
that
there's
is
a
awesome.
space now
Yeah.
to play, and
Mhm.
Amazon's got the money to support that service.
Absolutely. Like Amazon, Xbox, like these they're in it for the long haul, hopefully. I know,
Mhm.
I mean Xbox is, but they're taking it as a secondary approach right now. They're saying
Absolutely,
play on Xbox, download for the best experience, but if you can't download, jump in right away, instant on with Xbox Game Cloud or Game Streaming Game Pass. What the hell is it
exactly.
called? X
Xbox
Cloud,
Cloud
whatever.
Streaming. It used to
Cloud
be
Streaming.
X Cloud, and they got away from it. Just call it X
X
Cloud because
Cloud
I think
was
people
such a
like that. It
better
sounds
name.
goofy, but it makes sense. So just embrace,
X
like Xbox. It
Cloud
sounded
Gaming.
goofy at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Embrace it for what it is.
I think so.
It sounds
Um,
it sounds neon, as they would say.
so reading those responses again, I never got into Google Stadia. I when I'm streaming, I've done, like I said, with the Vita, I did remote play from my PS4. With Xbox, I've been happy to be able to stream to my MacBook, my iPad, my phone. I've got the controller mount for my phone that I've done a few times, and be able to play that way. I've played it on both Wi-Fi and LTE. I've played it on crappy Wi-Fi connections out at the cottage, and still been able to kind of manage to at least check into things and play slower games that don't require that instant kind of thing.
Hmm.
And I've had a good time with that. Todd, how do you feel about this as someone with the, at least with the Stadia controller, with the hardware? You've dabbled obviously more than me. What are your feels on this one?
Um, I think it brought an interesting proposal because what you can't do on streaming right now, at least on Xbox Cloud Gaming, is play all of your library streaming. It's just Game Pass games. If I bought Red Dead Redemption 2 on Xbox right now, I can't cloud stream it. It's not part of that service. And this is where people were saying we're getting Google Stadia was giving an opportunity to play Destiny 2, Cyberpunk 2077 without owning a box that was capable of playing it at 4K. Not everybody has a box that can play 4K gaming. That's perfectly fine. So I think there was a case for it. If I want to get into gaming, just buy my games I like. I don't care about the box, and my performance will be consistent with that, and my network speed, and go from there. So it did bring an interesting proposal. I think people think when they think of cloud, they think of subscription, and just you get all these games. I think that was something Stadia never really brought forward and said this is why. They didn't really do, their advertising campaign was horrible, and I think it just didn't really resonate with anybody that was outside of the gaming lens. So when you can't sell to someone outside of it, then you've got a bunch of grumpy old people that want a game the old way they do, and then it's like it's hard to convince people. We had
Mm,
Scarlett,
yeah.
on our show, and she was part of the Stadia gaming, and she loved it. It was for her, it was an opportunity to play cutting edge games, the new releases on through the cloud versus having to own a box. So I get it, but for myself, someone that owns all the systems that can play locally, which is great. I don't have to worry about my internet going down, not be able to play my games. I tried Resident Evil Village on Stadia with a wired uh, connection to my laptop at 1 gig, and I had a horrible experience. So I don't even know why. I mean, it should have been great. So I'm like, okay, if this doesn't work for me under the best circumstances, I can imagine other people had some horrible experiences. So for me, um, not ready for prime time. The other problem was that if you bought a game at $60, you were limited in your resolution to play at 4K. You had to buy the Stadia Pro subscription service. So to me, that
Mm,
was like, why do I need a service to run at a higher speed on a game I spent $60 on? So it was really a weird value proposition. And the
mm,
games in their streaming service that you would get as part of a library was okay. It was nothing that blew your hats off. It was okay. So I think it's a tough sell. To your point, Mark, I think this is a additive solution right now. Switch is playing this way right now because they have underpowered hardware to play games that punch above their weight. which I've not heard great things about it on Switch, unfortunately. But PlayStation is using it for backwards compatibility on PS3 games, and they are subpar at best. I think PlayStation best is at remote play. I was doing Cyberpunk remote play on my iPad. It was great when my connection was good. It was great. I loved it. It looked awesome. But it was, again, it was additive. It was another way to play in my house. So I think there's value. But the only other services doing something unique is GeForce Now, where
Mm.
it is essentially you buy the games, but it's any game in your library, your Steam library or games you own on PC. You pay the subscription, and then you can play those streaming at a certain tier of power that you may not be able to afford for a hardware. So they're doing it differently. They're not getting pushback, but they're basically saying it's the games you play them anywhere, which I think is a unique additive layer to this. So no one's really nailing it. And
Mm.
Amazon Luna is offering you 4 games a month, I believe, as part of your Prime subscription. And it's fun. I had a great experience doing it, and it works seamlessly on a browser. You plug any controller in, or you connect any Bluetooth controller. It works great. So you don't even need a Luna controller if you don't want to. So it's weird how everybody is doing this differently. And the cool part is Xbox is going to be adding in eventually, from what I understand, any game in your library will eventually be cloud enabled. Once they
Mm-hmm.
do that, I feel that's the all in one. You don't have to worry about it separately. It just goes where you go and how you want to play. And I was using my Razer Kishi to play Tinykin and a bunch of other games. Very cool. On my Google phone. So Google
Cool.
doesn't, but Razer Kishi does.
There you go. Yeah, it's such a weird time, and no one's doing it exactly right. But I think again, that's that like point of like it's a little too early. They didn't give it time to figure out what it was, right? Like it's yeah. Someone just wrote back, Mr. Joshua Pack, at Mr. Joshua Pack on
Hello.
Twitter, just wrote in as we're recording, but replied into mostly Martinez and said pretty much exact same experience. So he's feeling the exact same way, like not super burned by it, which is good. That's
Yeah.
good. It's take it for what the experience was, and I think Google. As much as I keep saying like I wish they stuck with it, like I think they're doing right by at least giving the refunds out for what they can and the hardware and software side. Hopefully they have till January to figure things out. So hopefully, like some of the companies will maybe put in patches where you can
You
download your
think
save
Nintendo can
file
just
and
buy Stadia and
stream.
let them handle their backbone?
That could be an option. Who knows? But
350. I'll give you 350.
$1.25, please. Um, if anyone gets that reference, hit me up. It's old Adam Sandler
An old
audio
old
sketch
South
series.
Park reference.
Yep. Yep. All right. Yeah, I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see again in 5 years or so. Like, hey, was Google Stadia like the um, Dreamcast of streaming services, like where it's just like a tiny bit too early, but what really cool.
Well, 5G isn't
Um,
even widespread yet, right?
right.
And this may work for a country like Japan, smaller,
Hmm.
compressed, or South Korea, where it's compressed, smaller. Your network speed is better everywhere, and you can just play on your phone. I mean, I think Japan and those countries where they're a very handheld centric type of audience, this could work great, and they could play games that they love. And we know like Fortnite is doing gangbusters through the cloud through Xbox for free right now. So there's a space for this, but it's just right now it may be the free to play and there's something tying you to it versus paying for a dedicated service. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
And you mentioned Scarlett before. She just wrote in Scarlett_stream on Twitter. Go follow her there. Um, She said, I saw it coming for the last couple of weeks. Something felt wrong, but I hoped it wouldn't happen. I'm not terribly upset about losing Stadia, but more upset by the trust that has been broken again and the bad business model by shutting down. So more Google, Alphabet trust, I guess, than anything else. Stadia really could have been amazing. So
Yeah.
thanks Scarlett for writing in there, and thanks everyone for writing in. Mostly Martinez, and Josh Peck. Yeah, but again, I wanted to hear from people that really kind of put at least a little weight. But it's really good to hear people at least not like super angry or super like dejected, like, oh, I'm not gaming anymore. Um, there's other things to move on, which again might point to, as cool as Stadia was, it wasn't people's only choice. Like, I don't know. I'd love to hear, and I'm sure there are people who would like, this is it. This is where I'm going. I'm all in. Um, and maybe it's the Nintendo fan in me going through, like, the Wii is when I kind of broke out. I was like, I need something different. I loved the Wii, but I needed something different. That's when I jumped into Xbox. Like you said, with the Wii U, I needed something different. That's when I picked up a PS4. And for right now, Switch is great. I have nothing but love for the Switch, but I really, I need that next experience, and I'm back in the Xbox camp 100%. Um, and then Switch is kind of like my portable, like, other experience. So like, um, maybe it's growing up as a Nintendo fan that was like, I need that backup of something.
Yeah.
I kind of, I'd love to hear from someone that put all their eggs in that basket, or maybe I wouldn't, and that'll be sad. But yeah, let me know if you're listening to this and you didn't see the Twitter question, because I literally posted it 15 minutes before we started recording. Let me know how you're feeling about, sharing the Discord, how you're feeling about all of this. And again, I want to thank everyone that did write in.
Yeah, and I think there's something to the fact that um, if they didn't take the step to refund things, I think there would be a lot of more heartburn and
Mm.
pushback from people that were in Stadia, and the other people are just like never bought into it, but they just want to pile on. Um, Now, I think the other part would be, and we're going to get into this with the topic, Mark, of you know things that are trapped, though. Right? I mean,
Yep.
which
Let's get
potentially is
into it.
your time and money, or your time and effort versus money in this case. Whereas with gaming, we take, I guess, I guess we take for granted the fact of where we are with cloud saves and having your progress just be there versus the bad old days with it was trapped in a cartridge, trapped on a memory card, and any of those things could fail. And we've all had that lost save,
Hmm.
and you're like, oh my goodness, or you save over something. You're like, oh, I'm trapped in this level and I can't progress and I'm screwed. Now I have to start the game over. I had games where bugs broke and my save was there. It was either that or start over. So with Stadia, and that leads us into the future of game ownership, which would be the future of games, and what you can play and where you can play and how you can play in the future. There was an account of someone who has over 6,000 hours in Red Dead Redemption 2 on Stadia. Now,
Oh.
you would think, and Mark and you and I were chatting a little bit before this, cloud, basically, shared saves or cloud saves are kind of you are becoming ubiquitous. Where a lot of games that support cross save, like Destiny. I remember when they finally allowed your progress would
Mhm.
follow you, whatever console you went on and platform. That was awesome because you didn't feel like I had to play only with one group. And then they opened up cross play, so it was like, oh, everything's open. Fortnite, same thing there. They finally opened the
Man.
doors, right?
Yep. I remember when I switched to switch back to Xbox after my little PlayStation 4 experiment. I remember my Fortnite stuff was still, a lot of it was still trapped on PlayStation because PlayStation wouldn't play nice. Anything I did on Switch or Xbox, cross save instant, good to go. All the battle pass stuff, all the skins that I bought, everything's good. But there was a couple of seasons worth of stuff trapped on my PlayStation for the longest time. And I remember like celebrating and sharing screenshots in a Fortnite community that I was in, that was just like, I got my stuff back, it's no longer trapped. It's a big celebration moment, and it sucks that some stuff is trapped. Like, I didn't know it was 6,000 hours. Man, if you're watching the video, you just saw my face just drop when you told me the time. Because you said, like, you know, you were reading about a guy whose Red Dead Redemption progress was trapped. But like, whew, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, and you would think with Rockstar, I know that their social club and things like that, they have a lot of these, like, basically it's almost like your data travels with outside of a game. It just kind of travels there, like Destiny or Fortnite, things like that. It's tied to more like an account that's held separately, which is great because then it's not tied to a platform. It's tied to where you want to play. I thought Rockstar was tied that way. I really was, with all their GTA
Mm-hmm.
online. You'd think that they would, because they're like, we want you to buy our game 8 times, and we want you to spend all your money in 8 different ways. It makes more sense because we can make more money if you're playing it elsewhere, because it's more opportunities to spend your money to look cool everywhere versus just on one console. So you'd think that, that would benefit others, but I can understand where console holders want to hold you back because you want to buy your V-Bucks on PlayStation, or you want to do this. So it's a weird line of, respecting the players and protecting your territory. So it does seem like, though, that why cross saves and third party are just not a thing anymore. I get it on Avengers, apparently, because of some of the Sony content, like Spider-Man doesn't play nice. I wish they could figure it out. I remember
Mm-hmm.
Skyrim, when I played on 360, and I'm like, oh, I want to get back into Skyrim on Xbox One. My content and save was stuck on my Xbox 360. I had to start a
Mm-hmm.
new game on Xbox One, because when they introduced the anniversary edition, or whatever one, it was special edition. Nope, it's like a completely different. I'm like, is it really that different?
Yeah, that's you know, if it's a re-release game, yeah, does your you know, can you translate that old save file from the original game, and then you get into remasters and you know, remakes and that kind of stuff, and I guess it becomes a little bit more um, a little tougher. But you know, I think if it's that one could be a little tougher because maybe they're changing the base code and you can't translate a save or something like maybe, yeah, I can kind of see an argument for that. But like, if it's, let's use your example, if it's Red Dead Redemption and just like friggin' get along like that, something should work there.
Yeah, I don't think there's
Something
any. I mean, I know there's Red Dead Online, but Red Dead
right
Redemption, the game, maybe that's what he was playing, is online. Maybe that's
has
where
to
the
be,
problem is. But
has to be. But you
yeah,
think there's like, you would think, because especially because it's online, that you would just have an online profile that's like, here's your online
yep.
persona save kind of thing, please download it and play it on console or PC or wherever, and here's just your login and your packet and your 6,000 hours of progress. Oh man, that just upsets me.
Yeah, but I mean, and we're really focusing on the saves part here, but this is really talking about,
Mhm.
like we say, the future of game ownership. Um,
Yeah,
you don't own any of these Stadia games. Essentially, they're
you
gone
don't
now.
own
They're
anything right now.
and they don't even let you buy anything right now on Stadia. I looked, I'm like, because if you buy something, they got to refund you. So like, we're gonna halt
Mhm.
this bad boy. So you can still play the games, but they go away. And that becomes like part of the problem, Mark, because everything wants to go subscription these days. Nintendo used to have an eShop for the Virtual Console. They don't anymore. If you want to play Nintendo's retro console catalog, you're part of subscription. If that service closes, you can no longer access that retro catalog. Um, your cloud saves potentially go away, and anything you saved goes away. So I am curious, and even that, I mean, just that's one part of it, but it's like, think about, will you be able to play the Fortnite you're playing now in the future? Because it seems like Fortnite,
Absolutely not.
there's like no Fortnite 1.0 still available.
No, man, classic Fortnite's dead and gone. The islands changed now 3 times. It's actually closer now to the original than it was back in Chapter Two. Um, but with those games, I understand what I'm getting at. Live games, they're going to change. The games as a service, it's going to change. Even Nintendo Switch Online, as your example said, I understand when I'm paying for a year and my year's coming up. I was just talking to the 8 people that I share my family plan with, a super close family, all of them for sure. Actually, kind of. It's like my brother, my sister's kids, and Finn's godparents. So like kind of
Your
family-ish.
brother's cousin's
Um,
uncle's
yeah,
roommate, like
I don't have
Spaceballs.
that kind of yeah. But like we were just talking like, hey, we're gonna re-up and I'll split the subscription cost. But for that, I at least understand that if it goes away, I've paid for my year, and if I stop paying for the year, I no longer have access to the streaming games that are there. The scary bit for me, and I think the bit that most people don't understand, or maybe most people do, um, or at least hardcore kind of gamers do, um, game ownership when you're buying digital games doesn't exist. You are leasing that game at
A
best.
license.
You're buying a license for it. So if that game gets delisted, which it could at any moment, they could just take away your ability to play that game that you paid full price for. And they can not only like shut servers down like you mentioned with the Square Enix game. They could just like straight up just like, hey, you can't do this anymore. You can't you can't play that. And I read something, I forget where they bought the game, and I don't want to misquote, but I think it was Amazon digital movie purchasing, and they couldn't watch their movie or their TV show. And I didn't get super deep into the article or the thread, but it was basically just like, hey, this thing disappeared from my library. I paid for this. Why can't I watch it? And it was just like, well, it's no longer listed on your digital library. It didn't belong to you. You bought the license for it, and now it's no longer licensed. So you should have bought the DVDs, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it unless it's physical media, like you don't really own anything. You're
This happened with Sony,
um,
Mark, on PlayStation. They removed purchases from
yeah.
Studio Canal films, including
Mm.
Paddington, one of the Paddington films, and The Hunger Games. These aren't small films.
No.
It's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's
HBO
wild.
Max, they just removed Final Space, a series that was very entertaining. It was like kind of a goofy Futurama type show, is now completely non-existent. There's no
Mm.
physical media. You can't watch it anywhere. It's a license, which leads you to like a lot of these consoles. Like people are like, I'm gonna keep. I mean, I think of like the Wii U and the 3DS that, and even the DS. I think had a little bit of a online eShop type of mode. Once your system dies, um, there's going to be a point where you can't re-download those games, like if you
Mm.
bought a new handheld, because there's no way to log into the store anymore. So those games, and there's games that are specifically were made for those platforms online, the eShops, things like that. I think Dylan's Rogue Rescue, Rusty's Real Time Baseball. What was it? The
Yeah.
one, the crane game on
Mm-hmm.
3DS that I really enjoyed. That was
The
goofy.
badge,
Yeah,
maybe
Badge Hero
and
or whatever it's
collector
called.
badge collector.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know
I
what you're
mean, those
talking about.
games are gone. You can watch YouTube videos of them, but you're dependent on that to have that experience again. We will
Mm.
have experiences that will no longer be available because that hardware and that interface to the cloud or a store goes away. It's like old mobile phones, like those old
Mm.
like Nokia phones where they had like those Java games. Like I had a God of War game, Mark, on my mobile phone that it used like my the actual keys to beat stuff up. It was goofy and fun, but it's like that game is never coming back to my mobile phone. My
No,
T-Mobile Click.
that's yeah. You're not playing that one anywhere. Um, it's tough because I love buying digital because I don't have the shelf space, or at least I don't feel like dedicating shelf space to game cards anymore, or game cases or whatever. But on the flip side of that, it's like any of this could be taken away at any time, and we just have to deal with that. So it's it's such a risk reward kind of thing. And so far, like none of the games that I've really been attached to or put time in that I feel like, hey, I could go back to this. Like it's they haven't taken away like, Super Mario 3D World or something like that from me, right? Like,
Oh
but
God, those games,
it
Mark.
could,
Those
like
games are
they
crazy. Super Mario
100%
3D
just could.
was it 3D All Stars? A
Or that,
physical,
oh yeah, that too.
yeah,
Right.
a physical release on a Switch cartridge. Was that ever offered online, or was it only a physical purchase?
No, I got that online. I got that a digital version of that game. That was a limited release. Like that one,
Okay.
like the Super Mario 64 Sunshine, that
Yeah, I own a
yeah,
physical
Galaxy,
copy
that
of that.
I was
Yeah,
stupid and didn't buy it physically. I just downloaded that and
because
it's
now
there. I mean, I still have
essentially
it,
you
but I
can
can
probably
re-download it, but
re-download that as
I
long as the
can.
Switch shop exists. And if
Mhm.
they bring it out for Switch 2 or whatever, and that's another discussion point, right? Like
Right.
Nintendo next strategy
Mhm.
of how they bring forward games. But
It's a
yeah,
scary
that
one.
game, the physical is, I don't think they even, I don't even know if you can buy it in stores anymore. I mean, if there's
No.
copies, then
Oh
maybe there's
no.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a situation where they said, there's no reason we can't do this. We're just not. So it's
Yep.
not even like, it's almost like a big fu to gamers to say, we don't want people that bought the Switch in 2022 to be able to buy that game, which is, just seems like, man, Nintendo, be
Mhm.
passive aggressive. Why don't you? You got a Mario movie coming out.
Again, as someone that I'm hoping, and again, depending, I might have to cancel my pre-order depending on deductibles for house insurance and stuff from damage. But the plan right now is I have the pre-order set for the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet OLED Switch. I'm going to give my current OLED Switch to my wife, and we're going to sell her OG Switch. Um, and that, cool. But with Nintendo, it's so risky because like I could lose my Animal Crossing island if I don't do that right.
Oh,
With
that's
the
right.
system transfers, I always lose.
Oh,
I lose my time that I put into it. So like it says I have a few even on my current OLED, it says I have like a handful of hours in a few games that I've got like hundreds of hours in realistically, but it's like
are you being
you've played this
gaslit,
game for
Mark?
20 hours. Oh yeah, 100%. And it looks like I think it like Mario
Did you
Kart
really
8
play
was
this
one that
game?
that's it right there. Yeah, I think Mario
Just wait
Kart
until
8 was
Finn
one.
opens it up and just deletes your
Breath
island.
oh, it's gonna happen. I know it. Um, Breath of the Wild is another one. I think it's like you've played this game for a couple of hours. It's like 200 and then some. Like, come
It's
on,
like
dude.
when you roll over the speedometer. So for
That's it.
100 hours goes to 99 and then it goes to 1.
Yeah. So it's so like, and that's why I try not to put too much. Like, I've had my experience. I hold those in my brain, and I talk about it here, so there's proof. So whatever, they can take things away from me, and they can gaslight me into thinking I've played Breath of the Wild for 10 hours. Um, but it's like that's digital is convenient, but it's also super risky.
Yeah, I mean, PT, that
Mm,
demo
still on my
that
PlayStation, I think I'm safe.
Kojima brought out on PS4. I believe I still had PT on my PS4. I played it finally. Weird game.
Mm,
But there were people that were buying PlayStations just because it had PT on it for like ridiculous amounts of money. I've
if you
obviously,
want to hit me up, I'm pretty sure it's on mine
yeah,
upstairs.
exactly. I wanted to wipe my. I didn't want a PlayStation with all my stuff and just saying, "Hey, yeah, enjoy my credit card information that you can get off this." I wiped mine. So yes,
Mm,
PT is not available on mine. But that's another system, a game that is essentially an experience. Apparently, people are hacking their PS5 to get PT back on it. Apparently, I don't know. Things are weird. But I own a Xbox 360 for the purposes of playing games that are no longer accessible. That would be like my Marvel license games. The Captain America game on 360 was really great.
mhm.
The Punisher game on Xbox, the original Xbox. Some Evil Dead games. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is why I bought my original Xbox, because those games are licensed and they're never coming back. Disney overlords, please port those games and remaster them. Hopefully, maybe, who knows? But yeah, I mean, there's going to be some games that just are going to become fables, right? It's like, did this actually exist? Was it even available? And we have to pray for people to remaster them, get the licenses, and to do these things. So I don't know. Is there one game, Mark, you can think of off the top of your head that it's like, if this game, if this game left, I don't know what I would do.
I don't. Yeah, it's tough, man. Because like even like Splatoon jumps in my mind. Splatoon 1 and 2.
Well, one's essentially dead, right? Because it's on the Wii, only on the Wii U, right?
The Wii U, and even 2. I mean, what's the point of going back to 2? So any progress and whatever, I got a little bit of bonus on Splatoon 3, but realistically, like, that has been just kind of taken away, right? It's useless at this point. It's you might as well delete it. But like I said, I try not to let that stuff bug me. I try to just, like, I've played what I've played. If Fortnite was ripped away from me, I've put a ton of money and time into Fortnite at this point. If they just said, hey, guess what? We're shutting down the biggest money maker in gaming right now for one of them or whatever. Because we hate money, we're shutting this down. Donald Mustard's gone crazy and Fortnite's dead. So thanks. I'd be pretty dejected by that. I have a lot of skins, a lot of time, a lot of memories and stuff. And yes, they constantly change and upgrade the game, but that's part of why I love it, because it's never the same game if you go back next week. Fortnightmares is coming back for Halloween. That's always super fun. They do weird, wacky things and put zombies in trash cans that jump out and scare you for a second. And they do always some weird event stuff. But I'd be sad if they just shut the servers down and I couldn't go back to play any type of Fortnite. That'd be a shitty day for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. Well, because it was just announced that Overwatch 1 is essentially
right. I watched a video of that
officially
just going down.
dead. Yeah.
Yeah, there's people, they were in a match and it was like the match has gone into overtime and they're like dancing around and like shooting their guns up and there's like two teams just getting along. And then you just start to see them, like, it said something on the screen. It was like, thanks for playing. And you just start to see people log out and then the screen just goes.
It's like Free Guy.
And it's like,
it's
thanks.
a moment where it just goes away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Scary shit.
Yeah. I mean,
sure.
I mean, for me, I am one of those people that I'm not very nostalgic with gaming. I don't want to own my old hardware. I get what I get out of a system and I move on. Thankfully, with this generation, with Xbox and PlayStation, I feel like I didn't leave anything behind. It came with me, which is great. And Xbox has been great about that, and PlayStation is finally catching up to speed. I am hopeful with Nintendo that they are just like, everything you bought on Switch 1 goes to Switch 2. And it's going to be a better experience. So. It travels over because Nintendo was great on like the handhelds with carrying things over. Consoles, not really until Wii, because GameCube went to Wii. So we got that backwards compatibility finally on consoles. So it'll be interesting to see if that carries forward, because the 3DS and the Wii U essentially were the stone wall for Nintendo to say, none of that stuff's carrying forward. You could carry forward some of your eShop purchases on Wii to Wii U, but that gravy train ended. So I am hoping
the Wii U could read Wii discs and use the Wii remotes and stuff.
Yeah,
like that part carried forward.
And your eShop or your virtual console games,
virtual consoles,
yeah, they could upgrade for like what, $1?
Go into it, yeah. It was,
or you could play it. Yeah, you could do it the old way. Yeah, so so I'm hoping, because no one wants this library of Switch of, I don't know. I mean, where they're going to end, maybe 150 consoles, maybe, to say, no, you got to buy your games again. That would just be like the ultimate, like, F you. It was like when Nintendo went from the NES to Super NES, parents were pissed off at Nintendo. Like, what are you saying? My games won't work there. I'm hoping that they fix that melodrama. and they appreciate and respect their consumers and realize, you know what, even you've got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on your Switch, you're going to buy Mario Kart 9, but let people play that old game if they want to.
Yeah, scary. And I say I have no like, I just kind of let nostalgia go and whatever, and I play the games and I have my memories, and then I'm good. And I'm like, I literally have my old Game Boy Color. I don't know if you can see
Mark,
it
you
on
were
the
just
video
saying, I'm
over
like, why
there.
don't you just get an analog pocket and play these games?
I
No, I want to use my old hardware. I'm like,
no, I
oh,
want to use the old
great.
hardware. It's
Okay,
sitting
old
right.
man.
It's right behind me. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but
Yeah.
it's and I'm thinking about like updating the screen. I was looking at like drop in, because there's some that you have to like slightly modify the case, but I'm looking for this kind of like a drop in screen replacement for
$500
that
later,
screen.
folks.
No, they're only like 70-80 bucks
Sure.
Canadian, which I think they'd probably give them away for free in cereal boxes
Sure.
in the States. I think that's how the money translates, right? And I'm talking to the right person for cereal giveaways, I guess.
Sure.
So hook me up with one of those screens.
Yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. But it's weird. Like I don't know. I guess I don't make sense to myself, but I love that
Mark,
Game Boy,
I
and
installed an
watching.
afterburner screen in my GBA, the original GBA, so I could actually do that. And that was like $100 to add a backlight
Yep.
onto the GBA screen. So talk about crazy people who sent their system in to get it modded and come back. So you know what?
And there is a local guy who does that kind of stuff as well here. So I'm sure I could pay a tiny bit more and have like a professional do it. But I'm thinking about just ordering it and doing it myself and building up a Game Boy library because I'm broken. And I read something about like what's it? Ed Sheeran just released a Pokemon song.
Yes.
Which is super catchy anyway. But he was talking about how he still plays it. He still has his Game Boy Color and still plays Pokemon Gold and the old games. And I was like, so do I.
Doesn't a GBA do the
Ed
same
Sheeran?
thing, like original
That's
GBA
great.
or GBA SP? It can
Shut
play
up,
all
Todd.
those,
You're
right?
making way too much sense. I still have my GBA SP. Stop making sense, Todd. Go away.
I remember when they had that big old ass cart things. You put those GBA, with all those things, those GBA carts or those GB carts. Some of them were just huge. It was like, what is going on in these carts?
And they hang out of your GBA SP. See, that's why it's not a perfect experience.
Oh no, yes, because it's not streamlined. Because you got to worry about, you got to be streamlined when you're gaming on the go, Mark. Right? Slows you down.
Stop making sense, Todd. Stop making sense.
You know what? That's what I'm here to stop. I just need to stop making sense. Oh well. Yeah. So let us know about your fears. I mean, this is not fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FUD. No, we just wanted to know, like, how are you going to prepare for the day when that game you wanted to play no longer does? Because we're in a fast and loose. New is best, and preservation for gaming, especially when you have an online component or a shop or a way to connect to keep that game alive, is going to be harder and harder.
Indeed.
Very good. Well, Mark, this has been a fun journey. We're back to as normal as we can get, which is awesome. So I'm glad we're seeing each other face to face. We don't have to like Skype each other or whatever to talk about games. So this has been a great time. So with that, tell people how they can follow you on the interweb when you actually have an internet connection.
And speaking of that, you bring up a good point that we're back to kind of normal. I know there was a little hiatus in a few of the shows last week. I wasn't the only one responsible for that. Charlie and I talked even as much as close as like this weekend, and just kind of like, how you feeling? Are we able to do Holocron? And we decided to just kind of do like a double super edition of Andor catch up next week. So we will be coming back with Holocron Chronicles. We just decided, like, you know what, it's the weekend, we already missed our launch date, and we're just going to leave that as it was. So if you were expecting Holocron and you're listening to the network feed, we'll be back better than ever, double episode next week. Thanks for sticking. We're happy that we were able, like you said, to record co-op mode and stick to the normalcy and get back to it. So if you're looking for me, you can follow me in the Discord or on Xbox and Switch as Canardian, or on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and anywhere else as _Canardian.
Well, very good. And if you want the hot takes on Star Wars, we actually talked about Andor. Well, I gave my hot take on Andor through episode 4 on Secret Friends Unite. It's out this Friday, so check it out there.
Yes.
But for a deeper dive, definitely go to the experts, Mark and Charlie, and go there. Yeah, we did skip a week on Secret Friends Unite with myself being out for co-op, but we're in Shocktober, Mark. I'm wearing my spooky shirt with video game 8-bit art. Love it. And we'll probably talk about little spooky video games in the next episode, but that's where we're at. So if you are interested in all things spooky and just having a good time with geek media, follow us at Secret Friends Unite, at Secret Friends U, for all things there, and T-Oxtra for me as I get sad about my fantasy football and real football in life takes, and just having a good time talking to all the cool people on the interwebs. So with that, Mark, once again, it's always a pleasure. This is always fun. So we'll see each other in 2 weeks. Can't wait.
Yeah.
And remember, folks, it's always better to game together.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.